Welcome back. The Minister of Culture launches the activities of the Egyptian-Russian Human Exchange Year at the Opera House. Well, to discuss this in more details, we have over the phone Dr. Yehya Abdel, the tourism expert. Hello? 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 So I think Dr. Yehya will be with us soon. And just as I mentioned, we are talking about the Egyptian-Russian Human Exchange Year at the Opera House. And hello?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So first of all, talking about the importance of launching the activities of the Egyptian-Russian Human Exchange Year, taking this as the soft power between both countries.
Well, the joint declaration between President Abdel and President Putin to celebrate mutual cultural heritage and arts between Egypt and Russia in the year 21-22 is a milestone really in the solid relations between the two countries. The soft skills, like between the two countries, as we know, and we all know we are living in a digital age that makes effective communication accessible and powerful tool to exchange culture, education, art, music, and trust. For example, last week I was at the Opera House and I watched the St. Petersburg Opera House with Pomod Rigotto and the Cairo Opera House stage, and really it was sold out. And this is part of the celebration in Egypt and Russia that's going to go for a whole year. Inshallah, will change the culture event with music, art, and entertainment as well.
So to what extent can the soft power bring countries together regardless of the culture, language, nationality?
Well, we have very long and strong ties, like with Russia as a background, for example, long time ago, the Mamluks ruled Egypt 6th century. They were great warriors and leaders and builders, they were of Russian descent. And they left us, exceptional architecture, like Sultan Hassan, Friday, Islamic Museum. So we have a solid background between the two nations and the soft power of communication skills. And remember, since the 50s, Dr. Sawat Akasha, he sent, pioneers like Magda Saleh and Kamel to train, for the opera and the concerts and the dance and all the modern art. That's why we have a solid foundation of art in these areas. And this is one of the areas, like music and art and literature and novels and music, some of the basic tools, to substantiate soft skills between nations and individuals.
Talking about the Russian-Egyptian relations, and especially when it comes to the exchange of culture and also tourism, how do you see it and how important it is?
Well, as I mentioned, we had strong ties with Russia a long time ago. This is on one side, and then since the 50s, the Egyptian revolution, we've been substantially supported by Russia. And since that time, they helped us, for development of the High Dam, and they helped us, in the music and art, as I mentioned, through Dr. Sawat Akasha. And we had very excellent relation between, the military forces in both countries. And through travel, we've been receiving Russian, tours, and they were fond of Egyptian archaeology since the 18th century. And you look at the Hermitage, museum, and you can see, the volume and exclusive, artifacts of Egyptian archaeology. Egypt has been present long time in the Russian, stage and spectacle. And since the 50s, we've been seeing mass tourism coming to Egypt, to Luxor, Aswan, taking cruises. And for the past 2 decades, they nearly been living like in Sharm el-Sheikh. We have a population of 40,000 Russians who live in Hurghada, and then we have a consul, Mr. Fobayev, and the Russian consul in Hurghada. So we have very excellent, strong ties, And by the end of this month, the travel, inshallah, will be resumed. And the Ministry of Tourism is inviting the Russian TV to do documentaries concerning these events.
Russia also has been chosen as the guest of honor for the Ismailia International Festival of Documentary and Short Films. Of course, this is in supporting the cultural relations between Russia and Egypt as well.
Well, as I already mentioned, the Ismailia International Documentary Film Festival has been recognized worldwide some decades ago. And as I said, mentioned, like in the 50s, like many Egyptians went to Russia to learn and practice cinematography, opera, classic music. And this has been reflecting and making Egyptian movies. And that's why Russia is welcomed, to be guest of honor and preferred, guest in this annual documentary that's really very artistic. And we gather, documentary of short and long movies around the world, and it is well recognized as many of the film festivals like Cannes or the Oscars like in Hollywood or whatever. But this is excellent tie between Russia and Africa and the Arab world.
Such cultural events are very, very important on talking about all kinds of activities that took place before. So how can this promote and attract more tourism to Egypt?
As I've been to the opera and I saw like a full house, of Egyptians and Russians living in Cairo and businesses. So our good relations with Russia has been reflected in sports and art, like even creating art, like a niche like the circus, for example, and many of the other arts for children and for adults as well. So art creates understanding and tolerance between people, and we have solid and confident, ties with Russia a long time ago. And we've seen even in the literature, lots of the works of Naguib Mahfouz, Yusuf Idris, Louis Awad, Dr. Hakim has been translated to Russian and taught in academic circles and universities. And the same has been conducted here in Egypt. We have an excellent culture center that teaches literature, music, language, IT, design, and things like that. So this is an excellent, tie between two nations.
What about the youth when it comes to such events, bringing the youth of the two countries together as well? Because definitely whenever we talk about the future, we have to talk about the leaders of the future.
Well, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, doing excellent job, and the Ministry of Tourism as well, because to promote travel to Egypt, bloggers and YouTubers and influencers, they're being constantly invited to Egypt, to Hagara, Sharm el-Sheikh, and Mas Alam, because they like active sports and diving, and some of them like adventure sports. So the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Youth are, pairing, Egyptian and Russian youth to do projects together in designing and creativity and art and music and sports as well. Yeah, the ties is there with the government and the civic society and the private sector as well.
So when it comes to tourism, and we all know that Russian people are very much interested in Egypt and very much interested in visiting many of its destinations as well. So how do you see this, and how can we promote more to bring them back to Egypt?
Well, actually, even when there was a hold, for a while, because I lived in the Gulf, in Bahrain, I used to go to fly to Hagara and Sharm el-Sheikh, and I meet Russians who will be coming from the Gulf, not coming directly from homeland. So travel between two countries never stopped. But now we have 10 Russian cities that fly travelers to Cairo airport currently, and then they take coaches or they take domestic and local flights to Hagara and Sharm el-Sheikh. But as of the end of this month and beginning of July, inshallah, charter flight is going to be generated. And at one point, we used to have 1, 2, 3 million visitors at the peak, in 2010 and so. So this is going, inshallah, to be regained. They love doing cruises because they love to go to Luxor and Aswan. And some of them have like some passion with the high dam construction and the common, like bond between Egypt and Russia. And they like the Nile, the desert, and they are fond of Egyptology as well. Because as I said, they teach hieroglyphics and ancient Egyptian history, and they have a great collection since the time of the Tsars at the Hermitage Museum in Russia.
Right, Dr. Yehya Abdel, thank you very much for joining us. And I guess with this, we come to the end of our breakfast show for today. Thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International.